So the Liberal Party coalition has been meeting for their regular meeting in a parliamentary week. They were dealing with this big stick legislation today which gives the government the power, the federal government, the power to break up if they're concerned about a lack of competition in the electricity sector. There's been some resistance within the Liberal Party to this legislation, but I think it's got the approval of the party room meeting this morning. TRUDY McIntosh is there for us. TRUDY, it's come through the party room, as I understand it. Some divisions certainly within the coalition, but I think they're still hoping of getting Labor Party support, aren't they?
That's right, Chris. The government's been keen to downplay division that we've seen re-emerge, it must be said, on this big stick energy policy. As you said, yesterday there was concerns raised in a coalition backbench meeting about this legislation. MPs warned about the level of market intervention that we'd see with this bill, and therefore that doesn't meet kind of Liberal values. But today I've been told in the coalition party room meeting today no concerns were raised and that the bill did get the tick of approval. Now, the Nationals have been the ones strongestly pushing this legislation. Here was Barnaby Joyce this morning.
Every other nation has a divestiture power. And we know that's why we have the Business Council of Australia charging out, saying, please don't pass this. You know why? Because it will work. And to have the Labor Party, the champion of big business and big power companies who are ripping people off, is ridiculous. I can say the Labor Party's changed their scheme of arrangement and leadership. If you're smart, you will change this piece of legislation. You will support us. You will allow this divestiture power to go through, because otherwise we are going to pin to you that you're on the side of the big power companies.
So Labor hasn't seen this legislation, and they say they're not going to make up a final decision until they've seen the bill. But I've been told by government sources that there's only been minor changes to this legislation since the previous parliament. But nonetheless, we heard from Deputy Labor leader Richard Marles this morning. He's using the division we've seen as an opportunity to attack the government.
We don't have the policy in the public domain yet. I mean, what has dogged this government over the last 6 years is an ability to land this particular policy area. We're up to energy policy number 16. Who knows whether the so-called big stick legislation will represent a final position of the government? That's the question. And until we get to that point, there actually is nothing for us to consider.
Now, the legislation will be reintroduced to Parliament tomorrow, and, Chris, government sources that I've spoken to say they believe that Labor is looking for a reason to back this legislation when it goes to Parliament and are just waiting to kind of see those extra details in the legislation.